Şimdi yeşil yanmaya
Ala-i Süleymaniye'nin kubbesindeki yazımı ona ait olduğu ve onun aşağı kısımlarında dokulanlar çırağı okulan Hasan Çelebi'ye. Bir rivayete göre kölesi ama onu azat etmiş, sonra evlatlık edilmiş. Evlatlık edildiği için de Hasan Çelebi imzalarında İbn-i Ahmet diyor.
Two of the minarets in the Suleymaniye Mosque are located at the corner at the intersection with the main building and the fountain courtyard, and the other two shorter ones are placed in the northern tips of the courtyard. There are 4 minarets representing Suleiman the Magnificent as the fourth sultan since the conquest of Istanbul, and 10 minaret balconies pointing out the 10 sultans since the establishment of the Ottoman Empire. The fountain located at the center of the courtyard is surrounded by 4 minarets, and each corner represents the Kaaba. The main door of the mosque, where it opens into an inner courtyard, is a masterpiece in terms of its decoration and architectural features. Many of the structures around Suleymaniye that are built on the 34,000 square meters area are the schools. These schools provided educational services for many centuries. Within the complex, a hospital, soup kitchen, washing place, and intimate rooms and baths were built. Some of the schools within the complex provide library services even today. The Suleymaniye Library is one leading handwritten book library of the world. The editor's copy of the Tezkire Bunyan, a biography of Sinan that was written by Said Mustafa Çelebi, is also kept in this library. Suleiman the Magnificent rests in front of the mosque nation. The Sultan died on September 7, 1566 during the Sikh-Baghdad military campaign, and the Sultan's organs were buried next to his state tent, and his body arrived in Istanbul on the 28th of November and was buried here. The door script was not designed in the Suleymaniye complex, but it was understood that it would be done by Sinan the architect on request of Suleiman's son, Selim II. The beloved wife of Suleiman the Magnificent, Hürrem Sultan, died at the age of 49 in 1558, and her tomb is located next to his. 2,089 pieces of tile were brought in from Esnik for tile decorations, and dome scripts were written by the calligrapher Hasan Çelebi. Sinan calls the Suleymaniye Mosque his semi-spiritual work, and Suleymaniye Mosque in its complex consists of 18 buildings in what is known as the name of the complex where Sinan reached the apex of his art and architectural skills. The Suleymaniye complex is a magnificent piece of art that crowns the Ottoman Empire's greatness in political and military fields and is a symbol of civilization rising from this land. Suleiman the Magnificent provided the architect with full authority to start the Kırk-Çeşme water project while Suleymaniye complex was still under construction, despite the opposition of the Vizier Rüstem Pasha. The Kırk-Çeşme water batteries project construction began in 1554 with a much greater cost than the Suleymaniye complex, and it was completed before 1563 and still remains intact today. Kırk-Çeşme was the biggest water project in the century, and a total of 33 of the water arches were built, of which 5 of them are monumental and 28 of them had a single arch. The total distance of the Kırk-Çeşme facilities from the galleries to Erikaba was over 55 kilometers. The oldest document related to the Kırk-Çeşme project was a draft distribution drawing. Sinan placed detailed explanations on this drawing and gave some of the measurements. For instance, the measurements for the Mangrova arch's width of 100 Turkish yards and the Kozluk Kemer arch's width of 120 Turkish yards found to be proper with the measurements taken recently. One of the monumental water distribution arches within the Kırk-Çeşme project is Mangrova Arch. The Mangrova Arch consisted of 16 arches. Furthermore, a pedestrian path was placed in the middle of the water arch. This slender structure resisted many earthquakes and storms over the centuries, and it just shows the excellence of Sinan's engineering knowledge. The Manilva art is equal in worth to the Suleymaniye Mosque and the Selimiye Mosque. Today it is located within a dam, and despite the rising dam waters, it still stands in good condition after 450 years. And it challenges all arches made or to be made with its engineering and aesthetic features. The water gallery reaches to Güzel Çekemer after Marlborough March. Since there is no pedestrian path in the center of the arch, the empty space ratio is greater and it enhances its appearance. The double-layered, 711-meter-long Uzun Kemer is the largest structure of the facilities and is located on the west branch of the Kırkçeşme facilities. There are 50 Ottoman arches on the top layer and 47 Ottoman arches at the bottom layer. The masonry at every point of the Uzun Kemer is properly executed. According to the draft drawings kept of Topkapı Palace, the beginning point of the distribution line is shown as Kovuk Kemer, or as it is called today, Kırık Kemer. It is most likely that Sinan has repaired this arch and included it in the Kırkçeşme facilities. The distribution line of Kırkçeşme terminates in the Erikapa pools, outside the city walls within the limits of the Savaklar region. The incoming water's flow rate and quantity are measured and distributed to different galleries. All of the monuments of Sinan the architect are one way or another in contact with water. When the Kırkçeşme waterways were completed, he built the Büyükçekmece Bridge, which reminds one of the waves of the Marmara Sea with its smooth, sharp, and geometric appearance. It is between the sea and the lake, and 4 small islands' low surfaces are connected in line with the soft topography of the surrounding area. The sloped line of the road that ascends and descends 4 times over the sharp arches is an important product of Sinan's worlds of shape. He describes this unique monument in his autobiography as that Skyline Bridge was an astonishing piece of work at the time. On the other side of the bridge, Sinan built a small mosque and launched it for Sokulu Mehmet Pasha. The minaret of the small mosque was carved from a solid stone, and it is the only sample of such a small mosque that Sinan constructed. The Sinan fountain in front of the small mosque looks like it brings the Kırkçeşme water to today. The lodging house that is opposite the small mosque has been repaired by the municipality and has become an exhibition hall, and it provides a different appearance with its 24 stoves on both sides of it. According to a tale, the chimneys of these 24 stoves were heating the feet of the bridge and preventing the icing on the bridge. One of the other monuments of Sinan relating to water was the Haseki Hurrem Sultan Vaz that he constructed just opposite of Hagia Sophia. The Haseki Hurrem Sultan Bath, built by Sinan in 1556, is one of the most successful samples of the 56 baths built by Sinan. It consists of 2 separate sections for women and men, with 75 meters length and 2 domes at each end, with undressing and entrance sections underneath. It has a unique beauty, where the sections for men and women are reciprocal of each other. Sinan the architect is basically an architect of Istanbul. After he became a head architect, he designed and constructed his grand monuments for Istanbul. Therefore, a Sinan monument rises to the sky from a hill at the historical Istanbul Peninsula. The architect of Suleymaniye and Istanbul identified by his monuments made Istanbul out of Constantinople with its 316 buildings, and he examined the limited material and technical resources of his era. and tried all possible architectural possibilities with refinement, proficiency, pleasure, feelings, and with great aesthetics. The head architect in Istanbul provided two monuments in different vicinities of the Ottoman Empire. The first and largest Ottoman mosque in circulation was built in 1516 by Yavuz Sultan Selim. Yavuz stayed in Damascus for 4 months during the winter, and ordered that a large mosque be built next to the tomb that he built for the famous thinker. To the opposite tomb of the mosque in the Salihye district of Damascus, a soup kitchen was built. After Yavuz, to serve independent beverages on behalf of the Ottoman. Approximately 20 years after Yavuz Sultan Selim's conquest of Syria, and Sinan designed and constructed it. The construction of the Damascus-Suleymaniye complex, or as it is known with its local name, Tekiye-Suleymaniye, started at the same time as the Suleymaniye complex in Istanbul in 1550. It was realized by the associates of Sinan. The complex was a product of simple planning in terms of both placements and architectural structures. Sinan imported certain designs and structures that were built outside of Istanbul, where he could not inspect the construction of the buildings and places in such structures. Having the name of Suleiman the Magnificent and being the first structure erected in an Arab land with classical Ottoman-type architecture, it was designed to serve the traveling Hajj groups.
We are really proud because we have really 8 buildings, some of them small and some big, like Istanbul and Arab, and the Turkiye Süleymaniye Damascus. But we would like to talk about Turkiye behind the two minarets, similar of many minarets in Istanbul, and the most typical Sinani Shah.
The school that was not part of the original plan would become an important educational center with professors attending from Istanbul in the coming years. The last representative of Ottoman heritage, Sultan Bahrettin Khan, died in Italy in 1926 when he was in exile, and upon his will his body was transported to Damascus and buried in the garden of this mosque, of which had the name of his grandfather Suleiman the Magnificent. Another center where Sinan's monuments can be found in Syria is the city of Aleppo. In the square where the historical Aleppo castle's door is located, there is the Husseiniye complex, named after Hussein Pasha. The mosque is a unique Sinan monument, and it is dating back to the era of Hussein Pasha's governance in Damascus. In this case, the first stone-domed mosque should not be Haseki Sultan Mosque in Istanbul, but should be the Hussein Pasha Mosque. However, it is thought that this mosque was built in 1541 when Hussein Pasha was the vizier. The large and single dome of the Husseiniye Mosque is the most important feature of the complex. Another feature is the study, sharp and common minarets of the mosque. The hospice structure and its hoarded surrounding complex are still operational as a structure where educational services are provided. There is another monument to Sinan within walking distance from the Husseiniye complex through the narrow streets of Aleppo. The mosque of the governor of Egypt, Yukaminzadeh Mehmet Pasha, or for short, Adliye Mosque. It has a single dome, double portico, and it is completely made of cut stone. Even though it is constructed in typical Ottoman plan and mass placement, like other Ottoman structures, it carries local features in it as well. The beloved wife of Suleiman the Magnificent, Quren Sultan, established a foundation named Haseki Sultan Imaret within the center of Jerusalem, and inside the city walls. The Imaret, or as it is known as El Taqiya, still stands with its entire splendor, and it still operates to fulfill the foundation's purpose today. In 1550, the Imaret was the most effective section of the foundation, and hot meals cooked in giant pots would be served up to 500 people in the morning and in the evening. The structure was used as a vocational school for orphans, and in a way is still serving in line with its original purpose. The food is still being cooked and is served to orphans.
Suleiman actually is associated with the city, and from the description which we can follow, we feel that he named himself as second Suleiman, for it's the first is the prophet, and this is an honor really for Suleiman and for his subject to take care for Bayt al-Maqdis and for Jerusalem or Quds Sharif. It's not just Suleiman who pay attention for the Jerusalem and its importance, its inhabitants, and its rank in Islamic faith. His wife, Khorem, or Roxlana, as it is mentioned in Western literature, also gave Jerusalem one of the biggest, the most important charitable foundation. We mean with this, it is Khaski Sultan Imaret, or what it's called in local Jerusalem, Tikiya. Tikiya in local language, it's mean where you can get free food. Sure, Imaret, it's in Turkish, it's a complex foundation which houses or comprises a mosque, a teaching place, and a free kitchen. But for Jerusalem people, the main important, which really left its imprint, it's the free kitchen.
The further small mosque, Masjid al-Aqsa, and Qubbat al-Sara, the location where the Prophet Muhammad's ascension took place, was renovated during Suleiman the Magnificent's era. And Qutaya tiles decorating the structure survive till today. When you look down from the Mount of Olives over Jerusalem, two important structures are spotted by everyone. One of them is the superb walls that surround Jerusalem, all around like a necklace, and the other is the golden dome mosque that looks like a jewel attached to the necklace. The place of this mosque is the place where the Prophet Suleiman constructed the first temple. The holiest place of this holy hill was secured by walls that were built by the Sultan Suleiman, as Sinan the architect describes him, the Suleiman of the Arab. There are 7 main gates on the walls, and the most magnificent gate is the Damascus Gate, and it opens to the Muslim section of the city. Besides the Imaret and fountains, the most meaningful and prominent structure that remains from the Ottomans are the walls of Jerusalem. Next to the Qubbat al-Sara, there is a unique structure constructed by Sinan, the Qubbat al-Sisile.
Suleiman, in a sense, took a different kind of architectural tactic by staying at eye level and creating the walls that meet anyone coming to the city in a very strong and obvious fashion, declaring the Ottoman presence. In fact, there are people who say that from a defensive perspective, the walls probably weren't very functional, and they wouldn't necessarily have stopped a very serious invading army. But they were truly impressive and still are today. The fountains, on the other hand, couldn't be seen by anyone except at eye level inside the city. And yet, for people who lived there day to day, walking around the city, there would have been an immediate reminder of the Ottoman presence. These things are all in place when Hurrem Sultan comes to establish her Imaret. And by that time also, she had already finished several building projects in Istanbul, in Mecca, in Medina, and this was her final project.
Sultan Suleiman started the enlargement works of the Kaaba in 1551, and Khan Mustafa was appointed to the job, who was a palace architect and was on duty in Cairo. The only remaining parts of the Kaaba on which the hands of Sinan touched were the porticos around the Kaaba. Another Sinan project realized in this land was a 20-kilometer-long water project in which water was brought into Arafat, where people gathered for the Hajj. The project was named after Mihrimah Sultan, the daughter of Suleiman the Magnificent, and the waterways and bridges are still standing today. These water conduits, just below the Jebel Rahmet hill, are the traces of Ottoman water civilization. When we search for the traces of a civilization of the Ottoman Empire, we come across Sinan the architect, from Mecca in the farthest south to the Crimea in the farthest north. Devlet Giray Khan requested from Sinan a building, a very big mosque for himself. The port city of Yevpatoria was chosen for the mosque, and Sinan planned a big structure for Yevpatoria. It was impossible for Sinan to attend to the construction site, since at the same date he was engaged in large projects. According to Evliya Çelebi, this two-minaret mosque is the tallest, largest, and most magnificent monument of Yevpatoria, and it was constructed by a palace architect sent from Istanbul. Evliya Çelebi states that the Ottoman monuments in Trikala, Greece, are countless. The still remaining Ottoman structure here is again a monument to Sinan, the tomb and mosque of Osman Shah. Nowadays, it is used by the Greeks as an exhibit hall. With its lead coverings taken out, half of its minaret is broken down, and the minbar is lost. The Çoban Mustafa Bridge, built in Stalingrad, a neighboring city of Edirne, is still operational today, despite heavy traffic on it, and it joins the beautiful shores of the Maritsa. When you come to Sofia, you will look for Sofun Mehmet Pasha Mosque, but you won't be able to find it. Because Sinan's widest single-dome mosque, except for the one in Edirne, now serves as a church. The Mostar Bridge was built by Sinan's student Hayrettin in 1566, and the bridge is accepted as a World Heritage Site that connects Bosnia to us and the whole world. There is no other example where an architectural structure influences the environment quite like this. The Mostar Bridge is like a rainbow that shows how powerful Sinan and the students of Sinan were. And it has been just hanging there on the Narikva River for 450 years. Another of Sinan's registered structures in Mostar is the Karagöz Mehmet Pasha Mosque. With a single dome and two porticos, this small structure was designed in Istanbul by a skillful palace architect, and it has proper dimensions. Visegrad is a town situated on the Drina River, a branch of the Sava, and about 110 kilometers away from Sarajevo, within the borders of today's Bosnia and Herzegovina. The stone bridge that was built in the 16th century and joins the two sides of the river is a bridge that has its own story and became the subject of a novel, and its author, Ivo Andrić, received the 1961 Nobel Literature Prize. The bridge on the Drina was constructed as a gift to this land by Sinan the architect at the order of the vizier Sokolu Mehmet Pasha, who came from Skorovic, a nearby village situated between the mountains that surround the town. These monuments that hide the Ottoman history in their water fountains, porticos on the scripts where a date was written, could be in geography with a different name today, but they are the living witness of a culture and civilization. It is possible to find a Sinan monument in any corner of Anatolia, in Van in the east, to west in Edirne, from Diyarbakır in the south to Izmit in the north. While some of Sinan's mosques have been totally or partially renewed, as in the case of the Fevziye Mosque in Izmit, the Cherkesy Skender Pasha and Behram Pasha mosques, located in Diyarbakır, stand still as unique examples in the cultural texture. There is a monument to Sinan in the capital, Ankara. The mosque was built for the Anatolian governor, Cenab-i Ahmet Pasha, in 1565, and it preserves its classical architectural shape. The Sokulu Mehmet Pasha Mosque and Complex, located in an important harbor city of the past in the Payas vicinity of Hatay, is a very important complex constructed next to a castle by the sea. It is a very important lodging facility sample that sheds light on 16th century lodging houses with its soup kitchen, mosque, and caravanserai. After Suleymaniye and before the Selimiye Mosque, Sinan constructed the Rustem Pasha Mosque in 1568, one of his masterpieces. This mosque is placed on a raised platform, and shops are located at the lower level, and located in a busy and Imamati district, where the slopes of Suleymaniye complex roll down towards the Golden Horn. Despite Suleymaniye's simplicity, the Rustem Pasha Mosque exhibits all the details of Turkish tile arts. The decorations and harmony on the niche and the minbar resemble a tile gallery, and they dazzle. Edirne Sultan Mosque was built on the hill in front of the gate to Edirne, just outside of Istanbul walls, and in a way it shows the directions to Edirne, where Sinan will travel after Suleymaniye Monument. The Halil Ibrahim Pasha Mosque, built in Silivri Kappa by Sinan, had a single dome, and it resembles Selimiye, and it just shows Sinan's art rules integration. The structural group composed of a mosque and school was built in 1553 for the admiral of the fleet, Sinan Pasha, in Istanbul. The slenderness of the hexagonal feet and arches that separate the central dome from the transepts was the pursuit of Sinan at the Sinan Pasha Mosque. The mosque in the complex built by Kara Ahmet Pasha, one of the viziers of Canlı in Topkapı, is a structure that can be shown as an example of Sinan's new pursuits. The Zahn Mahmud Pasha Mosque that was completed in 1566 coincides with Sinan's developmental period. The mosque, built on a sloped land descending to the sea, and between two roads that were in different levels. Sinan, without needing to level off the land, and without pushing hard on the topographic conditions of the land and texture of the social and physical conditions of the city, preferred to provide a solution. Of course, the monuments of Sinan, from Suleymaniye to Selimiye, from semi-skilled work to mastership, are not limited with these structures. However, all of these monuments carried his art and architectural solutions one step further each time, and at the end he put through the most important monument in the Turkish Ottoman civilization. After Süleyman the Magnificent died in 1566, his son, Selim II, inherited the throne. The new Sultan, who was a poet and a musician, wished to own the best of everything, and he began to act to have a mosque and complex that were bigger than Suleymaniye. The only place for this big mosque in Istanbul was where the Sultanahmet Mosque is located today. However, at that time, the palaces of Sokulu Mehmet Pasha and Rustem Pasha were occupying the land. Instead of demolishing his son-in-law's and his sister's house, he shared his idea of building the mosque in the border city of Edirne, for which he always fond of it, with the head architect. The construction of Selimiye began in 1568, and it is accepted as the crown jewel of the classical period Ottoman architecture. At the same time, it is an apex for Sinan, the architect, where he could exhibit his art, intelligence, and technical experience to the full. Sinan completed the work in 1574 when he was at the age of 85, and called Selimiye Mosque his masterpiece. The basic idea that was emphasized in the outer appearance and internal space was a notion of collectivity. It is located on a flat piece of land controlling the city and placed within a courtyard surrounded by walls. The mosque consists of a worship area with dimensions of 40 meters in length and 60 meters in width. The amount amalgamation of the main hall forms a fused octagon that becomes more apparent as it goes up, and it is crowned with a huge dome. The minarets that are placed on the four corners within equal distance of each other provide power for the center motion. The magnificent dome that resembles a helmet and the weighted dome increase the structure's plastic effect that can be observed from faraway distances. Selimiye Mosque is covered with a magnificent dome of 31 meters, 22 centimeters. These elephant feet carry this magnificent dome. Having the idea of placing the dome on an octagonal plan provides interspace integration and shows the extreme point reached by Ottoman architecture. Having only one big dome stresses the feeling of integrity further. Sinan the architect follows a tradition in Selimiye, which was used in the Anatolian Seljuk and early Ottoman era mosques. In the middle of the domed area, he placed a muezzin and a small fountain. Hence, he increased the central placement feeling even more. It is no coincidence that the measurements of the Kaaba and the measurements of the muezzin place are identical in ratios. The fountain underneath probably represents the Zamzam well under the Kaaba. What the reverse tulip motif placed on the marble column of the gathering place represents is kept like a secret. The inside decoration of Selimiye Mosque is similar to the architecture in terms of conformity, especially the minbar that resembles lacework and the mihrab made out of white marble are the most charming examples of his pleasure and power in his art. The minarets that are placed on the four sides of the dome provide the feeling of verticality. A straight body implementation is used on the minarets, and as a result, the minarets look longer than they really are. And to reach the balconies of two minarets, there are three staircases that rise spirally with each other. The courtyard of the fountain is surrounded by porticos on four sides, and in the middle there is a fountain with 16 corners that adds size and elegance to the open courtyard. Sinan kept the sizes of the other complex structures small and low in number to have the mosque stand with all its magnificence. The Selimiye Mosque is the apex point for Sinan personally and for the Ottoman Turkish architecture in general. The art and soul richness that shows itself in the magnificence of the Selimiye Mosque appearance is a reflection of a life spent on three continents for almost a century.
Mimar Sinan'ın yapılarına baktığımızda kendisi doğal çevre, topografyanın yapısal biçimsel özellikleri ve yapılı çevrenin fiziksel özelliklerine dikkat eden, yerin hem fiziksel hem kültürel açıdan anlam ve bağlamına uygun yapılar tasarlayıp üreten bir mimar. Dolayısıyla bu ölçütler çerçevesinde evrensel düzeyde eser vermiş bir mimar olarak kabul ediliyor. UNESCO'nun Dünya Kültür ve Doğal Varlıkları Koruma Sözleşmesi'ne göre üstün evrensel değer taşıyan yapılar insanlığın ortak mirası olarak kabul ediliyor. Bu bağlamda Sinan'ın eserlerine baktığımızda Sinan'ın Dünya Miras Listesi'nde doğrudan 2 tane yapısının dolaylı olarak bir yapısının yer aldığını görüyoruz. Kendisinin de ustalık eserim diye tanımladığı Edirne Selimiye Camii'nin 2011 yılında Dünya Miras Listesi'ne girdiğini görüyoruz. Yani artık insanlığın ortak mirası olarak kabul ediliyor. İnsanlık tarihi için önemli bir aşama olan Osmanlı döneminin mimarisinin zirvesini temsil etmesiyle Dünya Miras Listesi'ne giriyor.
The monuments that he completed between the years of 1571 and 1586 are described as his final compositions. When we listen to the composition of Sinan over and over again, we come across a modest fighter who produces monuments to make the earth more beautiful. Having an extraordinary imagination, designing his monuments by taking care of the considerations of the civilization that he was a member of, and shaping them as he found more beautiful ways to perform. Sinan the architect's structure is the sharp edge of the science, as Suleiman the Magnificent states. Hagia Sophia stands on a premier spot of the historical peninsula by itself, with the contradictions in its inner space and mass standing on the outside. It had a new meaning with the addition of retaining walls made by the Ottoman architects to keep it standing, and the richness of shapes along with the addition of two thick minarets by Sinan. The standing of Sinan on Hagia Sophia carried on by building the tombs of Sultan Selim II and Sultan Murad III next to Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia is evidence that the Ottomans approached civilizations before them with respect, and it was protected with the additions made, and the additions themselves were supplemental. They glorified it and ensured that it would reach today with its adorning beauty. Sinan the architect constructed Sokul Mehmet Pasha Mosque and the complex near Kadırga port in 1571. The stairs that lead to the mosque courtyard make one realize that the integration of architecture with the physical environment in rich and differing features has taken place. As in the case of the Rustem Pasha Mosque, the unique samples of 16th century tile art can be found in the Kadırga Mosque. Over the dome glow and around the ceiling of the museum are placed decorations that make it spectacular. These are a few examples of Ottoman decorative art that managed to reach our day. It is important for creating a framework for the blue and white tiles with dark red and golden yellow colors. Another monument that Sinan erects for Sokul Mehmet Pasha is the Azap Kappa Mosque. The central area of the mosque is covered by a dome that sits over an octagonal base which is carried by 8 feet. Following the Azap Kappa Sokul Mehmet Pasha Mosque, Sinan built the important monuments of his late part of life on the shores, and he created the first steps for social and religious life to be developed on the shores of the Bosphorus with the waterfront architecture. Mosque may look like different architectural structure at first glance. It could not have been designed by anybody else but Sinan to have a reflection of vaults of the city beyond Piyade Pasha's magnificent windows with sharp arches on the external side, and who could sail to new horizons without any hesitation. Selim II left the throne in a much shorter time than his father, to his son Murad III, after crowning his reign with the Sinimiya Mosque. After serving to a grandfather and later to his grandson as head architect, Sinan constructed the palace for the fourth generation, Murad III. It was the only monument that was made as a palace and still survives today, even though approximately 40 such monuments were erected by Sinan. At the same time, the kitchen of the palace was renovated after redesigned by Sinan. And it became the main element that protects the integrity of the palace and complements the side that overlooks the Marmara Sea. Ali Pasha Mosque is one of the last important examples of Sinan architecture that reaches extensity with unity. It was built by the shore in front of Tophane, of which the first section of it was facilitated by Fatih Sultan Mehmet. The remaining part of Tophane was completed by Sinan. Kılıç Ali Pasha was the name of one of the 3 naval commanders that Sinan given their names to his monuments after Sinan Pasha and Piyade Pasha. Atik Valide Sultan Mosque and the complex started in 1570 and completed in 1583, and it is described as the last big project of Sinan. A mosque, school, Dervish lodge, soup kitchen, hospital, and a bath was constructed by the mother of Murad III. It spreads over a large piece of land in Usul Üsküdar vicinity.
Mimar Sinan hakkında az bilinen ve özelliklerden birkaç İstanbul'un Anadolu yakasındaki bir Sinan yazısı içinde konuşmak gerçekten büyük bir şans. İçinde bulunduğumuz yapı 1570 yıllarında ikinci Selim'in eşi, 3. Mehmet'in annesi Nurdan Sultan adına yapılan ve şimdilerde Atik Valide diye bilinen veya Valide Atik Camii diye bilinen caminin zaviyesi içindeyiz. Hoş bir kompozisyon. Üstelik yine pek bilinmez ama İstanbul'daki 3. büyük külliyedir bu yapılar topluluğu. Senin başarılarının en büyüklerinden bir tanesi de çok sayıda yapı yapmış. Evet, 477 rahmetli Abdullah Korun'un tasnifine göre 477. Bunun müzeyisini aşkına hala kullanırız. Zannediyorum dünyanın insanlığın varoluşundan beri böyle bir başarı görülmüş değil. Bundan sonra da çok zor. 500 sene sonra, 400 sene sonra hala yaptığımız yapıların en az müşteriyi kullanılmaya devam ediyorsa bu büyük bir başarıdır. Bunun için de çağın ötesinde binalar yapmak gerekir. Çağın veya geçmiş çağların kopyalarını değil, daha geleceğe dönük, daha araştırmaları, daha ufukçı yapılar yapmak gerekir.
Sinan would not disregard the city in which he was born, and he erected the Kurşun Mosque in 1584. The square main body was covered with a dome that had hundreds of windows on it. The smallest and most beautiful mosque that he began to build in 1580 would be one of his last monuments. 32 years after constructing his biggest project, Yayını Mosque, his last small monument, Şemsi Paşa Mosque, located in Üsküdar, next to Bosphorus.
Sorun var ya, sorun.
It is so close to the sea that the waves reach the walls of this small but serene mosque while it decorates the Bosphorus like a down-to-earth beauty. It is just like Sinan who decorated all of Istanbul and the Ottoman geography with his down-to-earth approach. Murat Pasha Mosque, the last monument of Sinan, was erected outside of Istanbul, in the city of governors, Manisa. Without doubt, he gave the most importance to Süleyman Mosque out of all his monuments. Before he died, he designed his own tomb, and he picked a small area just next to the Süleyman Mosque. It is an open tomb with a symbolic dome. The following words on his script bring into the eternity from the year 1588 Gregorian. The best of the architects, Sinan, has passed away from this world. It is my sincere wish that the kind-hearted people look at my works until the end of time and see the honesty and hard work in my efforts, and remember me in their prayers, God willing.
More travels. This time, we're living the good life. Back end, a nice glass of Rocky, and a sparkling Mediterranean. It's the best of Western Turkey. Thanks for joining us. This time we're spicing things up, venturing east of Europe for the more exotic charms of Turkey. I've been traveling here since my backpacker days and I've enjoyed seeing the country evolve. Today, Turkey's a mighty nation whose ancient heritage, Muslim traditions, and Western ways are coming together beautifully. As we explore Western Turkey, we'll see magnificent Roman ruins, relax in ancient pools, lunch in a Turkish pizzeria, learn why dervishes whirl as they pray, and enjoy a Mediterranean cruise on a traditional Turkish gulen, capped with a refreshing plunge. In the eastern Mediterranean, Turkey links Europe with the Middle East and Asia. Starting in the port of Kuşadası, we'll explore ancient Ephesus. Then we'll travel to Pamukkale, Aphrodisias, and Konya before finishing in Antalya. Turkey's where East meets West. For centuries, a cultural, economic, and religious crossroads, it's long been a land of change. In Kuşadası, it's a fine example of the latest change, modern prosperity. The port of Kuşadası is a good low-stress place to start our Turkish adventure. As if to remind its residents of a humbler past, colorful fishing boats still bob in its harbor, cradled in the sweeping curve of a people-friendly promenade. Kuşadası is booming today, in part because of its foresight in building a fine cruise port. Nearly every morning in season, ships carrying thousands of passengers slip artfully into harbor. As they disembark, cruisers enjoy an ambush hospitality as traditional musicians celebrate their arrival. I find Turkey every bit as friendly and rich in history as Greece. The food's great and it's a good value. While most visitors find it's a safe and welcoming place, it still feels exotic. In Turkey, some women may be more comfortable traveling with a partner. But with the spirit of adventure and applying your common sense, I think anyone can find this country as friendly, comfortable, and intriguing as I do. Kuşadası is popular with travelers because it's just a few miles from the ancient Roman city of Ephesus. While tour buses and taxis can get you there in a snap, as anywhere in Turkey, I like the excitement of hopping a local minibus, or dolmuş. A dolmuş is kind of a cross between a taxi and a bus. You hop on one heading in your general direction, tell them where you're going, then relax. They'll tell you when to jump out. The ancient home of the Ephesians is one of the world's greatest classical sites. The west coast of what we now call Turkey was once a cultural heartland of ancient Greece. Ephesus blossomed as a Greek city in about the 4th century BC. It was later consumed by the expanding Roman Empire and eventually became a major Roman city. While the site is vast, only about 15% of this Greco-Roman metropolis has been excavated. But as Rome fell, so did Ephesus. Once a thriving seaport, the city was sacked by barbarians. Eventually, its busy port silted up, and it was abandoned. 1,000 years of silt left it stranded 3 miles inland from the Aegean coast. The library, the 3rd largest of the Roman Empire, is a highlight. The facade is striking. Statues of women celebrating the virtues of learning and wisdom inspired the citizenry. The city's main street is lined with buildings, grand even in their ruined state. This one, known as Hadrian's Temple, was built in the 2nd century. Dedicated to Emperor Hadrian, its decorations are full of symbolism. To this day, archaeologists debate just what it all means. For extra guidance, we're joined by my friend Lale Sermanarab. For years, Lale's led our bus tour groups around Turkey, and for this itinerary, she's joining us. Huge city, 250,000 people.
This was one of the biggest metropolises of the Roman period. Now we're in the downtown and the main street of the city, but the city expanded beyond this main street on both sides.
So way up to the mountain, actually.
On both directions, way up to the mountains, and housed 250,000 people. All the city was plumbed. Right underneath us, there was a huge sewer, and there were clay pipes on either side of the street, taking fresh water to the baths and the fountains.
So they had aqueducts coming in and powering the whole city.
Yes. See, these were the public toilets attached to the Roman baths next door. Everybody sat next to one another.
So the public toilets were really public.
The terraced houses stretch up from the city's main drag. These excavations are incredibly complex, like piecing together an enormous puzzle. The fragments are so delicate the ongoing work is protected under a roof. The terrace houses give us a particularly intimate look at Ephesian life 2,000 years ago.
Now, how many families would have lived in this zone?
Only 5.
Just 5.
5 families, and these were huge houses.
This must have been the elite of Ephesus.
Ultra rich. Not only for Ephesus, but among the riches of the world lived in these houses.
So when you walk through here, can you imagine what it would be like to live at that time?
Sort of. It was very luxurious living in these houses. All houses were arranged around an atrium, so they had a courtyard with rooms all around, which were richly decorated with art on 2 or 3 floors.
A standard feature of any Roman city was its theater. To estimate an ancient city's population, archaeologists multiply the capacity of its theater by 10. As this one holds 25,000, they figure the city's population was 250,000. It was here that the Apostle Paul planned to give his talk instructing the Ephesians to stop worshiping man-made gods. And here in Ephesus, that god was Artemis.
The local craftspeople produced statues of Artemis like this. It was a big industry. They exported them far and wide. When they realized Paul's message would ruin their businesses, they started a riot. Imagine this theater filled with thousands of people, all shouting in one angry voice, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians." For his own safety, Paul had to flee. And he ended up giving his message by letter. That's why in the Bible, we've got Paul's letter to the Ephesians.
Back in Kushidasa, the cruise ships have left and the town is once again relaxed. We're capping our day with strolling locals on the harbor front. Like anywhere along the Mediterranean, the town promenade is the great equalizer. Everyone is welcome to enjoy this convivial scene. And when the call to prayer rings out, I'm reminded that people of all faiths share the same joys. One of the delights of traveling in Turkey is the cuisine. Seafood is the forte here on the coast, and we're joined by some local friends for a feast. Traditionally, meals start with a selection of meze, fun little plates that let you dip into a variety of pastries.
Let's go for a photo.
Yeah.
All right, and then I like the eating button over there.
Yeah.
So no, yes.
When Turks are ready to party, the local firewater, Rocky, is often part of the mix. It's an Anna's favorite drink, like ouzo, mixed to taste with water.
Very good. Sure. Okay.
And it goes surprisingly well with the meze. Octopus salad, fava beans pureed with olive oil, zucchini fritters, and grilled eggplant. And for our main course, the kitchen's preparing an array of fresh seafood. We've chosen sea bass, encased in salt as is the tradition to keep in all the flavor. At the table, our fish is cracked open and filleted with pride.
The flavor with the olive oil and the salt keeps the flavor in.
We were saying in ancient Indonesia, if you drink record and eat fish,
Hello and very good morning. And welcome to the second day of GeoAdvances 2016. Apologies, we will have to wait for several people because as usual, it's traffic jams in Istanbul. When it's not weekend, when it's weekdays, we have a lot of traffic jams in Istanbul. So due to traffic jams, we still have many people who are missing. But it's better to start than being late. So I'd like to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Odyssey, to the stage for his keynote speech on the education system.
Pointer tanıtmak gerekiyor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning. May I sincerely thank the organizer, Mars, and Fine Arts University for inviting me to give this keynote address this morning. I'm so glad to be here and wish that everybody in this hall are in good health. It was a nice trip. It is always a memorable trip to Turkey, and I love Turkey very much. That's why I'm coming here again for my second trip this year. It is always the love that brings me back here to Turkey and to Istanbul. And for today, I'm going to give you something about the initiative that we have been doing all this while in Malaysia with regards to geometric education roadmap. My presentation today is, of course, with some contribution from my good friend, Professor Dr. Alias. Now, what is GAC? Well, GAC is a Geometric Accreditation Council and Committee that we have established in Malaysia for the purpose of accreditation procedures that we have adopted in the country. And in my presentation this morning, I will try to explain why we need the GAC, what are the accreditation formats, and why the need for accreditation. I mean, it is something that you are all familiar with. I suppose everybody in this room are land surveyors, I believe. Or maybe under the new name, geometric engineers. We used to be students. Some of you here are all maybe you are students, and maybe you are also lecturers. So the process of accreditation is very important for both students and lecturers, and of course the university. So I believe you do have your accreditation procedure going on in this country, but perhaps you can learn something about what we have been doing all this while. And of course, I will talk about why we need for GAC with regards to the deficiencies of the traditional education, what are the rules, and the accreditation criteria. And of course, I believe you are all familiar with OBE, outcome-based education. Okay? And then try to explain what are the focus and the benefits and some of the expectations and of course the outcomes of the GAC. Now, but before I proceed, let me just explain to you the general scenario of what the profession is all about in the country. I was trying to understand myself the formation of the institution in this country with regards to survey graduates, geometric engineers, graduates, lecturers, and those who are in the private practice. But perhaps just a general introduction as to what we do have in Malaysia. Now, accreditation for geometric programs at local universities in Malaysia falls under the category of the Board of Land Surveyors for Peninsular Malaysia and the Public Services Department Malaysia. Now, of course, in all program objectives, certainly for lecturers and academicians, we intend to produce graduates who do have an in-depth knowledge on geometric engineering. We want them to be competent. We want them to have all the skills in managing geometric engineering projects. Now, with modern instruments and modern technologies, we're expecting our graduates to be able to use all these techniques, and then they can solve those geometric engineering and related problems with, I think the key word here is creativity. They have to be creative in whatever things that they are doing. Now, under the new system, as opposed to the old system of education, we would expect students to not only come up with an answer as to what the problems are, but we would expect students to analyze, to maintain and update and synthesize geospatial data for specific purpose And of course, if you are involved in practicing, then we have to comply with the relevant laws. Okay? And at the end of the day, we expect students to be, they have this innovative attitude, lots of initiatives, so that the profession is something wonderful one. And being land surveyors or geometry engineers, I think we all agree that our profession is the second oldest profession in the world, if not the oldest, second oldest profession in the world, right? Okay. Don't ask me what the first profession is, of course. Now, of course, in Malaysia, we do have these public universities, we do have private universities as well, and process of accreditation goes through under the Board of Land Surveyors for the time being. Now, I think you are all familiar with some of the major ones, of course, UTM, University Technology Malaysia, and also University Technology Mara. These are the two private and public universities that offer courses in geometry engineering at degree and as well as postgraduate level. But others are the private universities that do offer geometry courses as well. Now, but when you talk about postgraduate studies, and I believe we do have students from overseas, Iran, from the Middle East, and I believe we do have students from Turkey studying in Malaysia but undergoing postgraduate studies. And in fact, the 5 major public universities that do offer postgraduate studies are these universities: University of Malaya, one of the oldest universities, University Putra Malaysia, and of course University of Science Malaysia, where I am at the moment attached to, and UTM, and as well as UTM, University Technology Mara. These are the 5 major public universities that do offer postgraduate studies in Malaysia. And with regards to the areas, and of course, it's anything under the sky as far as geometry is concerned. It could be on remote sensing, hydrography, real estate, and anything else under the sky that falls under geometry. Now, in Malaysia, the body that controls the profession are, as far as geometry is concerned, are these 3 bodies: the Land Surveyors Board, the Association of Authorized Land Surveyors Malaysia, and the Royal Institution of Surveyors Malaysia. These are the 3 main bodies. Okay, these are the 3 logos, and I happen to be the member of all the 3 bodies. Okay. In fact, I'm wearing this logo today, which is the Royal Institution of Surveyors Malaysia. Now, the Land Surveyors Board was established a long time ago. The main focus is on the control and the maintaining of the standards of all the practice of land surveyors, and as well as regulating the practices of land surveying. And we are always updating ourselves with the latest development and the advancement in survey sciences for the profession. In fact, the board is responsible for the registration of surveyors as much as licensed surveyors are concerned. Okay, and I was trying to understand what the situation is in this country. Yesterday I had a discussion outside and talking about the Chamber of Geometry Engineers and the licensed Office of Surveying and Cadastre. So back home, the Land Surveyors Board is actually the board that monitor the practice of licensed land surveyors who do have the license to practice. And the board is responsible to conduct these exams and practical tests, as well as the laws and regulation, and of course the registration and the administration of the registers of our practices, either sole proprietors or partnership. And of course, Theoretically, for all kinds of survey work, certainly for cadastral survey work, it is subjected to the payment of a standard survey rate. But again, for other areas of surveying, for example, in the engineering surveying area, then the fees are quite different. Okay? Now, again, we do have another association which is called PEJUTA, the Association of Authorized Land Surveyors Malaysia, and of course it is working together with the previous one, which is the Royal Institution of Surveyors Malaysia, but this body is more on the providing all kinds of support with regards to continuous education and professional development to all the members. Okay? And this is where we were given a chance to upgrade our instruments, softwares, and so on, and they do organize training for all the licensed land surveyors. Okay? Now, so the first few slides explain the importance of the profession, again being the second oldest profession in the world, that it is our main concern to produce geometric engineers or land surveyors, the graduates who do have that kind of quality. So, we do have our accreditation procedure all this while, but of course, we do realize that there are weaknesses here and there that pushes us. It actually started with Professor Alias and myself and a few others to push the Royal Institution of Surveyors Malaysia so that we do have a new body, which is now called the GAC, because we believe something has to be done. You must have somebody, who has to push for something. And as a result, a couple of us, certainly the key players, me and Prof. Alias, we push forward so that we need to form this new committee, so that the accreditation procedure has to be revised. And it was agreed. So it was a good job. It was agreed. So this is what I'm trying to tell you about what are the basis of this GAC. And of course, I believe you are familiar with the outcome-based education based on the Washington Accord. So let me explain to you what it's all about. So it is only formed in 2016, which is about a few months back, but of course it is based on the previous standard operating procedure, but the idea is we're trying to improve the previous movement. And this is the only body for accrediting geometric degree programs in the country. And of course, to get support, we do have members within GAC, those for the Royal Institution of Surveyors Malaysia, the Land Surveyors Board, the Licensed Land Surveyors Board, again, repeating here, the MQA, Malaysian Qualifying Agency, and of course, we are from this part here, which is the academy and the industry representatives. So basically, you see the GAC was formed here, and then support that we do have from all the bodies within the profession. Now, so what is GAC? Okay. Well, GAC, the main focus of all accreditation procedure, we have to clarify the instructional goals, objective of any programs in geometrics and geoinformation. We want to enhance the program content. We want to improve the delivery procedures. And the most important thing is we want to be consistent. Okay? We want to be consistent so that everybody will have a fair from the business point of view. And this involves the certificate, the diploma, the bachelor's, and also the postgraduate programs offered by all private, offered by all the public universities as well as the private universities. And of course, it is based on the Washington Accord. To our knowledge, that the accreditation procedure based on Washington Accord is one of the best in the world. There are so many other procedures, but we do adopt the Washington Accord. But Washington Accord is merely based on the engineering programs, and I believe in Turkey, where geomatics, the profession falls under engineering, but in Malaysia, geometric is geometric. We're not together with the engineers, so to speak. But we do adopt the Washington Accord as much as engineers are using it in the country. Now, Washington Accord, of course, there's so many other countries that do adopt this OBE, Australia, Canada, and in fact almost everywhere now. Okay. Now, why we need accreditation in the first place? Because an accredited program means the program is recognized by the government. That's the most important. Okay? So meaning to say, for it to be recognized by the government as well as the stakeholders, and the stakeholders are the students, the parents, the government, and the profession, industry, everything. So that the degree is of a high quality, and the holder of the degree holders, of course, attain a certain level of knowledge, skill, and maturity of thoughts related to the relevant discipline. Now, in other words, a graduate geometric engineer who has graduated from these accredited programs, either public or private universities, they are able to work in all sectors, either government or the private sector. That is the theoretical part of it. Now, also, for those who want to be a licensed surveyor in Malaysia, now the student, the candidate must go through the program which is accredited by the board. Okay, so we do have the licensed surveyor under Act 458, revised 1991 in Malaysia. Okay? Now, the question is, we were posed this question many times by many people, why are you pushing for something new when the system is already there? Now, of course, we are trying to prove to them that we need something new based on the deficiencies of the traditional education. So, one of the major deficiencies of the traditional system was the environment that students have gone through, little attention as to whether or not students have learned the material. You know, you send your kids to university and you expect them to pass, that's all. Right? Now, we were more or less based on the exam orientation. You just go and sit down, sit the exam, and then you get your CGPA or whatever grade it is, and that's it. Now, the question is, are those graduates from universities either here or in Malaysia, are they prepared to join the workforce? That's the main issue. And that's where the accreditation plays a very important role. Are they prepared to join the workforce despite they do have a degree? You know, despite they do have a degree from either private or public universities. The issue, one of the main issues is whether they do have the soft skills, the communication skills, the interpersonal skills, analytical skills, working attitude, etc., etc. So these are the issues that we focus on in our accreditation procedure. Now, in the traditional system, you know, as I mentioned to you just now, the input do come from the lecturers based on the curriculum. We do have the fieldwork, the lab, and so on, teaching, and then graduate because they have this CGPA, they pass the exam, and that's it. Those days, we lecturers thought, you know, I've done my part, you know. So I've done my part, so leave the student away. Those were the days. Now, under the new system, students are still our stakeholders at least after 5 years of graduation. That should be the procedure that we should follow. Despite they graduate today from our university, we are still responsible to them at least 5 years after graduation. Meaning to say, we want to know, are they employed? Are they working in the supermarket and not licensed, are not serving firm? Are they involved in any other business, maybe in the food industry and so on, and not in geometric industry? So we have to find out what they do at least 5 years after they graduate. So that's a short term, and the long term is whether they do fulfill all the other stakeholders' requirements. Whether they have fulfilled all the other requirements, but not only the short term, but also look at the long term. So we still maintain assessment. We still give them results, but the project that we introduce to them must be more of critical thinking. More thinking project with analysis, feedback from industry. We do have feedbacks from the industry as to how they perform, at least for the first 5 years. Okay? And then in all accreditation procedure with regards to all universities, the most important thing is CQI, continuous quality improvements. And this is the gist of everything. What you presented today is always subjected to CQI tomorrow. Okay? So, in outcome-based education, of course, if we need to assess the quality of the programs based on my previous slide just now, there are so many new things that we have learned, which are the program educational objectives, the program outcomes, and the learning outcomes, which are the COs of the subject. And this is a very big subject matter. We've been learning it for years and years and years, trying to improve the content of all the courses, subjects that we taught at university. So, the role of the new committee that was formed only this month is, of course, to both formulate and update accreditation procedures, the policies and the criteria. We have to do our presentation, I think in about a week's time, once we go back to Malaysia, try to prove to all parties that we do have something new, okay? Of course, we have to do a lot of work, appointment of evaluation panel, and then what we have to do after this is to go through all the reports and whether we can decide on accreditation of all those programs offered by the local, the public and the private universities. And then we have to respond positively to all the complaints or any appeals by those parties. And then we have to oversee the general development and the operation of accreditation and so on and so on. Okay? Now, for us to go forward, the GAC accreditation procedure, as I mentioned to you just now, it is always based on the program objectives, program outcomes, academic curriculum, the student themselves, the quality of the students, the academic, the support staff, even to the extent of those technicians, the storekeepers who do handle the geometric labs, they must have certain knowledge on geometry for them to be at the technician level. The facilities or the instruments, and of course the quality management system. Now, over the years, the fact, and I believe this also happened to many other countries, that lecturers with the true qualification the degrees must be responsible for teaching geometry students. We do have cases where they don't have the basic knowledge on geometry. Maybe they have gone through 1 or 2 courses on geometric surveying, and they start teaching geometry students. So this is what we're trying to avoid happening in the country. So one of the criteria of GAC accreditation is to make sure that those lecturers teaching geometry, engineering or surveying, or land survey for that matter, they do have a proper academic qualification. If they do have the professional qualification, that would be a lot better, okay? And the number of experience and so on. Research, publication, consultancy, that's why we academicians are always busy writing papers. Industrial involvement, teaching load, contact hours, even we do limit the teaching load of lecturers. Motivation and enthusiasm in the use of lecturers from industry, public bodies, we do invite those from the industry from time to time. But the most important thing is all academicians must be aware of the practice of OBE, the outcome-based education. Okay? Now, this was a survey done to reflect the past graduates and the current graduates. Those days, under the old system, where we only look at perhaps the GPA, the grade point average, or the grades of our students, anything 3.5 and above are considered good. But nowadays, we look more than just academic excellence. We do look at how they communicate, honesty, teamwork, interpersonal skill, the work ethics, motivation, analytical skill, and so on, for them to be a real good land surveyors. So this is what the Accreditation Council is looking at, not only the academic excellence, but anything beyond that. So, of course, the GAC is based on the outcome-based education, and as I mentioned to you just now, it's not only what we can do, but how we can do it better. Okay? So we involve the structuring of all the curriculum, the assessment procedures, reporting practices, and so on, so that at the end of the day, we do have real good graduates. Okay? Then we try to discourage all the traditional education approaches, okay, based on direct instruction, and hopefully we're trying to get better students after this. Now, under the OBE, we address these following key questions. What do we want the student to have or be able to do? How can we best help students to achieve it? How will we know whether the student has achieved it? And this is what I mentioned to you just now, that we still have our responsibility to find out how they perform after 5 years they have graduated. Now, and then we try to close the loop. Should there are any weaknesses here and there, and this is where the CQI plays a very important role. Okay, and of course the benefit of OBE, we try to produce graduates who are more relevant, in the true sense, relevant to the industry. Okay, and of course CQI is always there at all times. Now, these are the other issues with regards to GAC outcome. We ask the student to do a survey project, and then they come up with a result, but that's not enough under this procedure. They have to explain what are the results, why they're getting it, and so on and so on. It's just not straightforward. Okay? And they are more creative, so that they are able to analyze and synthesize all the information, using all the information they do gain at the site. Okay? And of course, they are able to plan organized tasks. So in outcome-based education, where GAC is now focused on, it is not what we teach, it is what you learn, or what the student learn, actually. Those days, it is what we teach, the rest leave it to you, students. Now, it is not what we teach, but it is what students do. So we have to be really responsible for the knowledge that we give to the student. Now, I mentioned to you just now, in the accreditation process, of course, there's so many criteria, and we are looking at all the major 9 components. Okay? The mission, the vision, all the goals, curriculum design, where we have to go around and look at the curriculum, assessment of students, where we look as to how they go through the assessment. We conduct interviews with the students so that the student can explain to us what are the problems secretly. The student has to confess to us what are the problems that they face with the institution. Selection procedure, academic staff, I mentioned to you that the true qualified in the specific area can teach the subject matter. Okay? Educational resources, program monitoring and review, leadership, governance, and so on. And again, it is always based on continuous quality improvement procedure. Just one simple example: if you were to ask a student to conduct a fieldwork, for example, using a total station, the procedure is nothing more than 5 students. 6 students, 7 students per group, the rest will be passengers. So nothing more than 5, so that there is no more passengers. If there is more than 5, maybe 6 or 7, accreditation failed. Okay? Okay, so the outcome. The outcome, we believe that under our accreditation committee, the new GAC, we believe we are going to give huge benefit to the stakeholders, right from the student, the parents, the sponsors, and the institution as well as the profession. The near future geometric engineers or land surveyors are comparable with international peers, meaning to say our graduates could be easily employed anywhere outside the country. Okay? International recognized and global workforce in geometric industry for the nation surveyors. Now, I was trying to get more information yesterday, especially from the last presenter. I can't remember the day when I was chairing yesterday. So talking about the practice of surveyors in this country, and I believe that we can always work together towards the getting us stronger with regard to the formation of the institution. And again, based on the nation context, that we are now under the Land Surveyors Board, the Royal Institution of Surveyors Malaysia, the Association of Licensed Land Surveyors, and so on and so on. The three main bodies that governs the practice. So I believe, and I believe that because of this caring attitude of the local Turkish friends, I think we can always work together after this for the betterment of our country. Now, my last few slides, maybe there are students, you're perhaps sending your kids to Malaysia. This is just a rough indication as to what the fees are if you're coming to Malaysia to do your postgraduate studies. This is for the international students, the master's research, which is about 18,735 for full time. I think all foreigners do go there to study full time. 18,000 is what, about 20,000 lira, more or less. It used to be 1:1. Now 1.3 measuring it is to 1 lira. Okay? So we're talking about maybe or maybe less than 80,000 in Turkish lira, maybe about 50,000. Okay. Now this is for PhD international students. Again, the full time 37,000. So roughly, based on my poor mathematics, that should be about say 32,000 1,000 lira for a PhD program for international students. Okay. So I think just some introduction as to what we are doing at the moment, and I believe it is also for the betterment of the profession, and I believe we can always work together towards the betterment of the profession in Turkey as well. Right, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Any question? Yeah. The more question, the better. Yes, please.
Isn't it important in this objective-based education to work in groups? And I ask you this because I'm going from Denmark, and in Denmark they have changed the policies about work in groups, and nowadays you cannot anymore do all your education in groups. Before you could do that, for each course you could do all your group work, but now you have to have individual examination. So I'm asking you, isn't it a little bit countercurrent to stop allowing the students to work in groups?
Thank you very much for the question. Maybe I presented it. Of course, the exam will be individual. Of course, what I was mentioning just now is, for fieldwork. For fieldwork, you do your cadastral survey or your engineering survey or what kind of survey where one total station was given to a survey group of nothing more than 5. This is what the group is all about. But exam is still individual, project is still individual, test, exam, everything individual. But it only comes with respect to practical session where you cannot work, you cannot do a survey alone. So we have to have at least 5. So everybody take turn to be a group leader or just another technician going around. So the process is, we always do checking so that everybody get involved, every single person in all the 5 students in a group. But if you do have more than 5, then the 6, the 7, or the 8, they are passengers. We don't want any passenger. I think I answered your question. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was really very beneficial for us. But I would like to ask about your reputation of your surveyors you told in the international area, because it's a kind of national accreditations for the surveyors in Malaysia. How about have you ever had any survey about your international reputation of your students?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, theoretically speaking, graduates who have gone through the process of accreditation, they should be prepared to work overseas. But the fact is, not many of our local surveyors do work outside the country. There are some who work in Brunei, in Singapore, and not many in Thailand. These are the 3 neighboring countries. But not many of us work beyond. Although theoretically speaking, you see, if we go out from the country to practice in other country, they do have the procedure. But the basic of everything is the knowledge that we give to our students should have the minimum amount of knowledge based on the accreditation procedure. For licensed land surveyors, although we are prepared to work outside, but I think the fact is we do have enough jobs to do in the country. But of course, if there are jobs outside, we still can do it. Of course, I know it is not that straightforward, but licensed surveyors in the country are prepared to work outside, especially for cadastral survey work, which are basically based on the same basics, right? And of course, all the other engineering survey jobs are all based on the same basic knowledge. The only thing we need to know is the other administrative issues for each particular country. But we are prepared to do it. Right? Thank you. Yes, please. Okay.
Well, I have two small questions. You told that you monitor the status of your students after graduation for a period of 5 years. So, how do you measure their progress, and what will happen if their progress is not satisfactory? I mean.
Well, we do have a database. We do have our alumni, and our database are at the moment almost complete in the sense that we want to know where they work. They have to give feedback to us upon graduation. They have to give those information to us as to where they are attached to. Now, of course, we cannot stop them from working in any sector that they like, because there could be other professions who are getting more money than being land surveyors for that matter. But the point is, we need to know why they are not in our profession. Maybe they just continue the family business, which is making more money than being a land surveyor for that matter. But at least we know they are happy. But we don't want our graduates, upon graduation from the university, they have to work at a restaurant, or they have to work in, multi-level marketing. I know multi-level marketing make more money sometimes, but we don't want students, our graduates, to go into other professions unless it is their choice. That's the most important thing. So we do monitor. We try to get feedback from them through the alumni, and alumni getting together is a common practice back home where we need to get feedback. Now, the Accreditation Council also will try to get the feedback from graduates as to whether they have gained the right knowledge from the universities where they learned. This is where we get the first-hand information from our products as to whether that university is good, that subject is good or not, whether that lecturer is giving you the right knowledge or not, so that we can give our corrective measures to the university, to the department, so that this improvement could be done. So there are so many ways of doing assessment, of course. We look at their curriculum, the course content, even the instrument that they have with them, the academician, but most importantly is the product, which are the students. So we try to get first-hand information from the students as to what they do get while they are studying over there. Right? So the sources of information inputs can come from so many different types of sources, not only one or two. Right? Yes, please.
Thank you for detailed presentation. When you generalize the skills of the geometric student, I wonder that which skills geometric students have. Do you?
Can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
When you generalize the skills of the geometric students, I wonder that which skills do geometric students have?
Okay, if I understand your question correctly, the skills of, say, student doing the practical.
Yes.
Okay. Well, during the time when I was a student, that was about 40 years ago, we just do our survey job, and then we just submit the report, the field book, we call it, the field book, and the results to the lecturer. That's it. For travels that we do, maybe the linear disclosure is to say 10,000 and above for a first class survey, right? Something like that. Now, under the new academic system, based on this outcome-based education, we ask the student, we ask the question differently from the way we used to ask students. You know, those days, one simple example, we give a traverse, you know, ask the student to do a traverse, internal angle or bearing method, whatever it is. I hope you all understand, let's go back this. And then calculate the misclosure, or calculate the linear misclosure. That was the question maybe 30 years ago. So once you got the linear misclosure, once you 10,000 and above, we give full mark. But the question of under the present new system is very much different. We just give the student instruction to conduct a survey. Say, for example, this is an area where a survey has to be carried out, a survey plan has to be produced at a scale of 1 is to say 10,000. Okay, so we give them the survey data, the results, the angle, the distance, and so on and so on. Now, under the new system, we just ask the last question: is the survey result acceptable? That makes the difference between the present system and the old system. The old system, we say, calculate the linear misclosure of this traverse, right? But the new system is, we may perhaps change the question to, is the survey acceptable? Because to answer the question as to whether the survey is acceptable or otherwise, they have to do the calculation and they have to justify why the survey was acceptable. Does it fall under first class, second class survey order, and so on and so on. So it's not just getting the result, but trying to justify why the result is there. So these are the ways that we check the question so that students are more critically minded, not just calculating the answer to get the result, that's it. Now, the answer is why you get it, why you can't get it, what's wrong with it, and so on and so on. So this is under the new system. So students are more critically minded, not just calculator, but they have to think beyond that. I think, is that okay? Right.
I had a question, but time is running. Therefore, I will ask my question personally later on to you. Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you very much. Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Professor Van Hissens. I'll have a few words regarding our first two keynotes. Actually, when we listened to Professor Van Hissens, it's really very much informative. And I now really got very happy because our collaboration with Malaysian universities and collaborative conferences have also taught a lot to us for many years actually. And it's really, we're really happy to collaborate with Malaysian academics in the field. So we've learned a lot from you. I think we also are happy to share our knowledge and experience in Malaysia. So I think we would strongly continue our collaboration together, and we are really appreciate this collaboration. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay, so as we've started late due to Istanbul traffic, we will not give a break, so we will start our first session. So I'd like to invite Professor Arthur Castro for starting his chair role for the first session. And then we'll have around 4 or 5 papers in the session. So we'll start with the session and start with the chair, Professor Arthur Castro from DTU, Denmark. Also, Professor Arthur Castro will have a keynote in the afternoon session which I believe also is a very, very important keynote, and which I always enjoy his keynotes. So I hope and think you'll enjoy it as well. So I'll have Professor Castro to the stage, that part, and then I think he will take on forward by inviting the presenters to the stage. We might have 2-3 minutes for presenters to upload their presentations to this computer. So the stage is yours. So we have 4 or 5. So I can invite speakers here to upload their presentations. All right, thank you.
So welcome to this session. I'm Francis Canton Castro. I'm Associate Professor at the Technical University of Denmark. And the first paper is the title Generalization Technique for 3D Scale DHE Data Models. And I guess it's from UTM. I will not state the name of the presenter because I'm afraid that I will not state it correctly.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning. My name is Wan Muhammad Hairi and from University Technology Malaysia, Johor Bahru. And I will present a paper entitled Generalization Technique for Topological 2D Scale DHE Data Model. And the authors is Prof. Alias and Paul Burgess. This the presentation outline of my of this presentation. I will briefly introduce the scale dimension and how scale dimension can be implemented, and then DHE various scale DHE is a data structure, and 2D to 3D topological scale generalization technique with the DHE data model, various scale experimental model, and then the conclusion. The last question. So the scale have their own properties. For example, the scale is defined as the level of detail or closeness of the same object in which perspective of the viewer distance. For example, if I look at this microphone and then this like this big, and then if I go in a distance, it may looks a little smaller in my eyes. So this is the example of scale dimension in our daily life. For example, glasses, cameras, visualization, for zoom in and out, microscope, and binocular. For NGIS, scale dimension can be an abstraction of repetitive object with different level of detail, or we also can call it LOD. And the distance can be measured, either the power, the ratio, or generalization technique. And the properties is there is no wall or concrete structure connecting the same object, and no area or volume, as well as can be different geometry or same geometry of the same object, which is under generalization then for geometry. And I believe that different user or application need different model or abstraction of the same object, and those a single object can be can have multiple abstraction or details. For example, if we assume or try to map an object or spatial object, for example, a baby here, the mirror is just like our model. So this is the common way how we map the object, spatial object. But in scale dimension, we can have multiple view, even for a single object. So this and every level of detail can be implemented or can be used in different applications as well, not only a single application. So for the scale dimension, we have two main implementation approach, which is the first one is multi-scale. For example, for 2D, we have a kind of topographic map, for example, 1/50, 100,000. And then for 3D, we can have kind of LOD or CTGML standard. And this some example of density map for multi-scale application, multi-scale approach. Sorry. So a population of in a city, for example, and the population of a region or country, and the population of the world. So this different scale is not connected, and this is how we describe the multi-scale. But not for the second approach, which is value scale. This can be connected via topological element. And for 2D implementation, normally we can use the hierarchical tree. And this is an example space cube model from Tilda. And then for 3D, the spatial object in 3D form can have multiple representation, although it is the same object. And for the comparison of implementation option, we got two main implementation approach, and we can have the storage or generalization topology comparison between these two. And how we implement the topological data scale dimension is via the data model and data structure. It's how we can encapsulate or store and retrieve the object. So this is the research problem that I tried to solve, and then for this paper I tried to overcome this the fourth research problem with the lack of 2D generalization to support the geometry attribute as well as topology for the data model, and then try to introduce 2D to 3D generalization technique for the scale dimension. And this is the illustration of the value scale concept, which is can use the tree as well as dual half-edge data model, data structure. Sorry. So this one is dual half-edge, which is we can store the attribute or the information about the object either in the dual or in the primal, and we can navigate both sides, the geometry or the dual graph. So this is the implementation approach that I tried to cover. It's starting from 2D dataset and then try to make it 3D, and then through the 2D to 3D generalization, scale generalization, and then at the end we produce 2D for every level of details. Let's say we have 100 of object, and then the level of detail can be produced up to 100 of scale from this approach. So the 2D to 3D generalization also includes the scale extrusion, and then merge by phase and topological simplification in this research. This example of normal extrusion, you can get it from any software, 3D software, for example SketchUp is normal. And then line-based extrusion, which is implement the concept of winning and losing. For example, line-weighted parameter. If we try to conserve the line or road network, and then the boundary which is touch the road will be eliminated, and we try to preserve because we try to preserve the road. And as it's also applied to the case A inside of B, which is, for example, for example, a forest, and inside the forest it's a lake. So how we try to modify or to connect the topology between these two in the next level of details. And then the second approach is merge by phase, because every geometry will have the topology. So it's kind of redundant if we didn't merge the phases or the polygon. It's just like a glue. When we have two polygon, then we glue it, and then it's become one. So we can have a look at here. It's kind of we have one more. Actually, it's two nodes here, but here is only one node connecting the primal and the dual. The dual is the red line. And then the third one is topologic simplification, which is removing the unnecessary dual edges and vertices. So it's only the main objective is to preserve the hierarchical trees. So we don't want any unnecessary edges or line that would give redundancy in the storage or in the query. So this is the overall process to construct multiple level of detail, multiple LOD, and this is the final result for this experimental data set. We can produce up to the feature itself, the layer itself. If you have 100, then we can produce 100 of scale. So for the conclusion, the scale is dimension is used in various fields, and the multiple scale dataset with topological element is possible. A handy implementation for a bigger dataset, which is this kind of technique. And 2D to 3D topological scale generalization would give flexible or closer toward the application implementation. And then the future work will be focusing on database implementation and the potential for one of the selected potential application. This one should be the previous. This one. When we have this generalization, we can have the generalization. We should have generalization order, which is depend on the application itself. For example, in economic perspective, the income per population per area must be preserved or as a priority for the application. So the area which less contribution for the economic growth which will be eliminated via the increasing level of detail. And it's based on a priority, for example, in which subject need to be first. And then I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Are there any questions? If not, let's go to the next paper.
I thank for your nice presentation. You mentioned at the last you are gonna develop or create a database for future. currently you didn't any query about this topological relationship?
Yeah.
Or
It is in the query, but it's in the graphic. It's not in the storage. When we read the data, the 2D data, and then compile everything, and then it's not yet stored in the storage of database for bigger data set. So this experimental model just working on the memory, computer memory.
Let's go to the next presentation. The next presentation is titled Integration of Geographic Information System and Building Information Modeling in Construction Project Management Overview.
The presenter is not here.
Presenter is not here? Yeah. Okay, then we are going to the next paper, Improving Nearest Neighbor Search in 3D Spatial Access Method, will be presented by Suhaiba Azri.
Hello, good morning everyone. My name is Suhaiba Azri. I'm from GeoAdvances Research Lab, UTM Malaysia. So today I'm going to present my research entitled Improving Nearest Neighbor Search in 3D Spatial Access Method. This research is collaborated with Professor Francois Anton and Professor Kamil from UTM Denmark. Okay, so for the introduction, I would like to give a general definition of nearest neighbor search. Nearest neighbor search is actually, in general definition, is to retrieve key nearby objects from a set of points P with respect to the Euclidean distance or a network distance. So we use nearest neighbor search in various applications such as image processing, pattern recognition, and also DNA sequencing. So in spatial database, one of the techniques to retrieve the nearest neighbor information is by using spatial access method, which is to index and find the search area using during the nearest neighbor queries. So common technique used in spatial database is R3, which is have several problems such as overlap between nodes, low efficiencies of queries due to multi-path queries. And there is an effort from Tu et al. In 2007, which is implementing K-means clustering algorithm to put forward an improved 3DR3. However, using this algorithm does not metrically minimize the overlap among nodes. So this is due to the random selection of initial seeds in K-means, and it leads to unbalanced number of points in each cluster. So our approach is we propose a clustered hierarchical structure. This structure is developed based on partition-based clustering to group the objects. We use another variance of K-means, which is called K-means plus plus. This clustering cluster the initial seed of cluster centers and combine with the original K-means algorithm. So this is the algorithm that we use for our clustered hierarchical structure. And this is basically the structure of clustered hierarchical tree structure. We have parent nodes and child nodes. So based on our previous work, we have experimented several tree data sets to see the overlap percentage analysis, and then the results shows that our proposed approach, which is clustered hierarchical tree, produce lower overlap percentage analysis, which is compared to 3DR3, which is 20 to 30% minimum compared to 3DR3. So our cluster hierarchical structure works to find the nearest neighbor information by traversal from hierarchical tree, which is start from its parent node, and then the location of point 3Q will be identified to which cluster it lies, and then other cluster will be grouped to refine the search area. and the nearest object with minimum distance. Minimum distance will be identified as nearest object to the point with you. So we test two types of nearest neighbor in this research, which is single nearest neighbor and k nearest neighbor. So this is the workflow of single nearest neighbor, which is the first it will find the group cluster and then get the cluster ID and prune other clusters. Then it will list all point in cluster. So for each point, it will calculate distance from Q and find the minimum value of distance. And this is the workflow of k nearest neighbor search. First, it will find the group cluster and then get the cluster ID. And then it will list all the point cluster, and same like the previous workflow, it will get the minimum distance to Q and list all the potential result in the min heap table, and then return the candidate list in ascending order to point Q. So it will find the best distance to key closest point to Q. So we test the access page of nearest neighbor retrieval. There were 500,000 point locations in 3D with different number of K, which is the K range from 1 to 250, and the results were reported in graph and compared to 3D-R3. Here are the results. As you can see that our clustered hierarchical tree produces minimum page access compared to 3D-R3. And then for response time analysis test, we use different number of K, which is range from 1 to 500, and then the data is retrieved in milliseconds and compared with 3D-R3. Here are the results, and our response time analysis using clustered hierarchical structure gives us a lower response time compared to 3D-R3. So as a conclusion, clustered hierarchical tree is constructed based on clustering algorithm, and our hierarchical tree offers minimal overlap among nodes, and we provide a minimal access to the disk page, and we save time 15 to 20% compared to 3D-R3. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for a very nice presentation. Are there any questions? If not, I would like to ask you how this research differs from the research that got both the prize at the ISBRS. That was about the indexing with this clustered hierarchical data structure.
Okay, that one is tested for marketing data, and it just tests how the structure retrieve the nearest neighbor queries. But this table is explain how the clustered hierarchical tree will minimize the access page and also response time analysis.
Thank you very much. So let's go to the last presentation of this session. That is about highway, the 3D indoor space model. And the presenter will be Professor alias Abdul Ahmad.
Thank you, François. Right, today I would like to present the work of my students, as well as a colleague from the University of West of England. My student did not able to join us, Ali Jamali, as well as Paolo Mogolowski. So this is our current work on trying to find out what is the best way to get the topology, geometry, as well as semantic at the same time. So we call it hybrid 3D indoor space model. So as a supervisor, I will brief you a little bit on this one. The detail of the study of this 3D indoor space model you can get from the paper. I think will be in the online very soon. So today I just give you a very brief what the project is all about. This is a brief description of the topology. The representation is basically one of the issues that we need to look into at the moment. Yeah. So when we navigate within the building, topology must be known. Right? This is common requirement when we want to navigate. For example, if we have some devices that help us to navigate within the building, we have to find a solution in terms of what is left, what is right, what is next. So this is topological application of the navigation. So one of the ways to get this topological information on the data structure. I think yesterday I mentioned the importance of the data structure that give you the right relationship object. The data structure is very important as well in this case. I think most of us agree with us that almost 90% of our time we spend within building. So that means we have to consider this situation within our sort of daily life. For example, if you want to work within the building, so this needs to be looked into. When we move around within the building, so we normally face some obstacles. For example, we have to look into what is the next, the door, the wall, all this needs to be looked into when we navigate within the building. For example, so this needs to be attached to our topological model. So in this case, we use three aspects of navigation. For example, primal space. This is based on geometry, and then dual space is based on navigation network. Semantic space, which is based on whatever the story of the object, the semantic. So we can attach the semantic to this semantic entity. For example, a room, or could be stair, could be elevator. So this could be attached to our semantic model. The challenges, as you can see here, we have to look into the suitability of the 3D building models, the indoor navigation network, and then vertical and horizontal of the connectivity of those points within our buildings. The characteristic of our model basically as follows. For example, our survey point, for example, we normally go to the building or inside the building, some survey point or collective point. So that needs to be attached. And then, of course, the generator building model also as a primal space. These are one of the two of these characteristics of our 3D hybrid model. The dual nodes. As I mentioned about the points, so you have some points that represent those spiral, dual, and then in this case, the survey control point. And then for the geometry, right? So this is what we call primal space based on geometry. Basically, if you have cat deck or whatever, you can just represent that as a primal space. Once you have geometry, so you can consider it as a primal space. And then the dual space, right? So that is normally goes or come together with a prime. Dual and primal normally come together. It's like when you do the linear triangulation, in most areas, or those who are doing the terrain mapping, for example, most of us are using triangulation or the linear triangulation, right? So normally that triangulation will come together with the dual and primal. For example, the primal is triangulation, the dual is the Voronoi kind of network, if you like. So this same thing here. Yeah. This is the model characteristics. I don't want to go into detail. I would like to go to this one, for example. You can use the shortest path extra algorithm in order to connect or need to get this information of the shorter distance, for example. So we are using the extra algorithm in order to get the connection between point to point within the building nodes. Primal space within dual hash, right? This DHE is basically the data structure that we used a few years ago. This is basically our kind of core data structure. But some people they don't like this DHE, but to us, DHE serves our purpose. Right? The dual space of DHE, as you can see, for example, the red lines basically the dual. Another courtesy of the dual hash was basically those who are quite new in DHE. These are basically some of the courtesy of DHE. My student managed to develop a GUI in order to see what's going on and query based on our hybrid model when you navigate within buildings. As a conclusion, so we at the moment we're at the early stage. We think that our 3D hybrid model able to serve some queries within the navigation. However, some of these surveyors, when some of the surveyors or owners of the building, they would like to have a very precise geometry. But in our case, we don't need that precise survey points. So this can be sort of looked after by some tolerance when we do what we call this geometry kind of space. If the parameters, for example, within GUI, you can put some, for example, tolerance half a meter. Yeah? Because the topology is still able to navigate, although you have not so accurate buildings. Okay, so proper model, of course, we need to have the correct topology, geometry, as also as semantic. So constraint, I think, can be sort of accommodated by this hybrid model together with the semantic. We plan to include for future work with the homotopy. Professor Anthony is one of the experts on homotopy. We also try to extend this work together with the final application on the escape planning group or something. Right? This is one of the standard application that we need to have once you have a nice building. Yeah, from point A to point B, what is the next in order to escape from this room when disaster happens, a fire. Yeah. And then we also plan to have this hybrid model within indoor general. Right? So this is our plan. Answer on that note, thank you very much for your time.
Are there any questions?
I missed the last sentence actually. You are planning to apply your model into indoor GML as a topological navigable network, but also it's possible to indoor GML the topological network.
Yeah.
And
so
what's
at
the
moment,
difference?
All right. So at the moment we don't have something in indoor GML. We develop our own by using our own program without attached to any indoor GML.
You think you will improve the navigational network in the indoor GML with your model?
Yeah, hopefully, because we try to engage with other interesting bodies like in GML working group within SGS. So we presented this, I think in Prague. It was well presented this one in SGS Prague, and then we got good response from indoor GML working group checked by K. Jun from Korea. So we managed to talk via Skype. What is our next plan? Because find out can be extend our work with the Indo-GML working group as well as.
But both approach are the same basis actually, graph theory.
Yes, I think so. I'm not quite sure, but I think so. I mean, my student I mean, know better than me. I'm the detail of the work. Smile.
Thank you, Professor Yes, for your presentation. You or François, could you please explain shortly the homotopy?
Homotopy to me quite complicated and involve a lot of mathematics, but François is a genius in mathematics.
Well, homotopy, very simply, is just comes from the Greek homos, that means the same, and topos, that means the place. And basically, if you want a coffee mug, if you take a coffee mug, okay, it is homotopically equivalent to a torus, to a donut. Okay. So the homotopy is a continuous deformation. You can continuously deform a coffee mug into a donut. Okay. But this is very important because Kolmogorov theorem tells us that any continuous mapping on an open domain can be reconstructed as an additive combination of continuous functions of a single variable. So if you take a function from one topological space to another topological space with several variables, any such continuous function can be reconstructed from very simple continuous functions of a single real variable or a single complex variable.
But it's theoretically.
Yes.
Practically, it's a little bit.
Practically, I will show you after the post that this can be coded in something like 30 lines of Haskell code. And of course, I see somebody who is already laughing, who's young, because he will have to. He has been suffering with this code. But it's very simple. Conceptually, it's very simple. If you take any country that is in peace, most of the physical phenomena are continuous. Of course, if you cross the border and you go to a country that is in permanent war, then that means that the processes are not continuous anymore because everything is breaking down into ruins. But if you are in peace, everything is continuous.
Thank you, François, for your brilliant explanation on the topic.
And the last question?
Okay. When you were mentioning about the second item, I mean an indoor and outdoor navigation network for disaster management, especially for escape route planning. So it just came to my mind, your system, I mean, your model must be dynamic, and at the same time it must be on real time, because in a disaster or in an emergency situation, the structure of the building may change.
Exactly,
How do you implement this phenomenon into your model?
Yeah. So your suggestion is good. I think at the moment we don't have dynamic aspect in our work. Yeah. So it could be included or incorporated.
Must be included, I think.
Yes. Dynamic is very important.
I think maybe I can just reply that in fact it's not only dynamic, it's kinematic, because things are moving. Of course, not buildings are moving, but you can have even deformations of buildings, and so you can do the things kinematically instead of just dynamic.
Maybe at the same time you have to get real-time information from the system about the structure of the building.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Maybe you need the data sensor networks.
Because the idea of this project that we initiated 2 years ago, two and a half years ago, the idea is to test the cheapest surveying equipment, to get the topology out of captured 3D buildings. Because at the moment we see a lot of people spend millions of ringgit, millions of lira, millions of dollars in order to get the right topology. So we just to test what is the best, the best way to see whether we don't have to spend a lot of money in order to get the right topology. So that was the reason behind this this project 2.5 years ago. So we then, once we carry out the research, we see the new aspect that need to be addressed. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the lunch now. Thank you very much for all the presentations.
So we have a break now. It's 11:37 at the moment. So we start regularly at 12, I think, not to be late. So we'll have 20 minutes to take some sandwiches from the cafe and we can come at 12 this time.
Sorry, off. Sorry, I just turned them off.